What up, everyone? Hey, welcome to Biztainment Weekly. I am Scott Janney, your host. I am also the co-founder and CEO of Magazine Jukebox. And the reason why I mention that is because they are sponsoring the show and they keep this show going. So thank you to Magazine Jukebox. And today, let me tell you, I'm excited about our guest. Carl and I have been talking to each other for about 3 years now. Actually, when Magazine Jukebox first started, Carl got to know us a little bit, and I think we both quickly realized that I couldn't afford him right at that moment. But we're super excited to have you on the show. But like I like to warn everybody, this show is all about positivity, excitement, business, what's going on in the world. And right now, it is time for our LinkedIn moment. So if you don't know, for our listeners and viewers, what's really cool about our LinkedIn moment is we try to find positive posts that help our founders or something out there that's going to put positivity out in the world. And if you don't want to be mentioned, then my suggestion is don't be my friend on LinkedIn, because you never know when I'm going to pull your post. So here we go. I'm going to jam into this. So there was a post by my good friend named Chris Hively. Actually, I think I totally butchered that last name already. And Chris Hively, he is actually one of the founders of MapQuest, and he likes to come over to the 7x7 Startup Studios often. And he also just wrote a book. So congrats on the book. And I think it's called Build Your Ford. Build the Ford. That's it. And so so he posted, he says, creating a story based on community brand will help accelerate your startup community. Marketing your city or region is one of the tools successful startup communities builders employ to help propel their communities forward and achieve their community goals. And then so he goes on and on. But the reason why I really, really like this is because he's going to share a ton of information, and I highly recommend going and checking him out. Because the information that he's going to share is for those founders, those startups. And trust me, if someone knows what it's like to start a company, he's the guy. So be sure to go check him out. He spells his last name Heivly. So, hey, Chris, thanks for that positive post. All right. And now the next positive post comes from Jawson. And I'm not even going to try the last name here. I think it's Kodiak, maybe Koedijk. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to spell your last name, so just going to go with that. But he says, One Key officially launched today. A long time in the making. One Key is our new single travel rewards program that enables travelers to earn and use loyalty points on travel across our family and brands. Hey, congratulations. Super exciting. Really, really love that. But you know what? It's the most important time now, because now LinkedIn Moment's over. Carl, it's going to be all about you. You excited? I'm excited.
I'm excited.
All right, Carl, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to Biztainment Weekly.
Thanks
I'm going to rip into everything about your company, which is called Epic Made. And if you want to check out their website, be sure to go to www.epic-made.com. And if you want to follow Carl, maybe follow his journey. People like to call him Colorful Carl. Am I saying that? I'm saying that right?
Colorful Carl.
I think actually you'll see if you're watching the show, that's what he has on his introductory name tag here, Colorful Carl. And if you go to colorfulcarl.com, you can find him. And he likes that because his last name is actually pronounced Cleanthes. But let me tell you, it's not an easy name to pronounce when you look at it. So, man, that's so. Hey, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, brother. I'm happy to be here. Excited to chat with you a bit and see what we can talk about. So
yeah, man. Well, we're gonna dive right into it. Your business has been around since 2006. Congratulations on that. That's such a huge victory. And so tell us about, if you can remember going back to 2006. First of all, tell us about your company. What is it? And then share with us, like, why did you even do this? Why did you come up with this?
yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm a third generation entrepreneur. I knew real early on that like I was going to be miserable with a 9 to 5 working for anybody. I would rather be poor and struggling on my own accord than like, oh, well, I've got a cushy job and I get weekends off. Like, that just didn't work for me. Um, so my business, we do digital art and animation for some of the largest entertainment brands in the world. We also help with advertising assets, and most of the work we do is within the advertising space. But we're passionate storytellers. My whole team of 11 we're a bunch of millennial gamer nerds, basically. So we love like technology, we love fantasy, we love storytelling. We're obsessed with all the different cultures that people build around these ideas and these stories, and we just love the stuff. So I started the company out in design school, actually, at Old Dominion University, and I never.
Old dirty.
ODU.
ODU, what
Yeah.
up?
Old dirty. Yeah, I do. I had no idea what I wanted to do going into college. No one really told me to go to college. I was just, I did really well in school. I was in math science magnet school at Ocean Lakes, and then I actually quit that and went to Kellum because I just got sick of doing extra homework. But I ended up landing at ODU, and I guess first day on like college preview day, they're like, "Well, what do you want to study?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'd love to make video games." And that was always been a big passion of mine. I love Blizzard games growing up. Highly influenced my art style personally. But yeah, so my dad chimes right in. He was like, "Oh well." Let's put him in the arts. My dad was an artist. All the stuff you see on my ceiling and the walls, like that was all my dad's art.
That's
That's
awesome.
I
That's
have
great.
Yeah, he was an amazing dude. So I have 700 pieces of his art, and I can get into the
Wow.
really cool NFT art memoir collection I'm doing with his art. But yeah, so I started the company just sort of after I just landed in design because that was the only viable space that was close to making video games. And I didn't want to do the programming as much as the art I was more excited by. Although I did have a programming background at the time in high school, I did a fair amount of programming and stuff. But so long story short, I got in the weeds, had no idea what I was doing. Try to do everything for everybody for years. Realized that I couldn't really scale a business much further than 100K of just grinding my face of like I'm gonna do everything for everybody. If you can do it in Photoshop, I got you. And I slowly started to niche the business over the years, find people with specialized talents. And got ourselves to the point now where, like I said, there's a team of 11 of us, all highly talented illustrators, animators, graphic designers. And those are our core skill sets, right? Like we don't really
Right.
branch much further outside of that. Every once in a while, we'll collaborate with, a videographer or photographer. We even do some of that in house. Just depends on the need. But I don't know. That was a little rambly. I apologize.
No, I thought it was great. So, and
Okay.
which is like kind of like perfect timing. So, in the show, spoiler alert to a lot of people, we're going to start announcing here pretty soon that like Magazine Jukebox is going to start mentioning or start producing. I shouldn't say producing, start using games and trivia on our platform. So that's pretty exciting. So it's kind of really good timing having you on here
Love it.
because that side of your brain that works, mine doesn't work, and so being able to tap into that is really great. So let's talk about something you mentioned that I think is really important, especially for founders or business owners, is that you recognize that you could grind it out and get to 100,000, and sure that would be great, single income, and most people would love to make 100,000 a year, which is awesome. But at some point, you knew that to get it to that next level, you couldn't do it yourself. Is that what I'm gathering from there? And that you basically said, "Hey, I've got to start bringing someone on." Is that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. So, once I got to a space where it's like, all right, I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, and that's fine because I'm 25, right? Or
Right.
whatever. And like, okay, so I don't mind, like, I would literally be dying working 40 hours for somebody else, but I'll put in 80 for myself with a smile, right? But
Right.
at some point you're just grinding yourself into just like utter
Yeah.
uselessness. Um actually
I knew what you meant. I knew what you meant.
yeah, and I realized like I can't be the best at sales and the best at web design and the best at graphic design, the best at illustration and the best at animation and all these things, and that like I needed people that were specialists in those things, or at least way better than me, so that we could scale this beyond my capacity.
Right.
So it was like a good chunk of advice I got at the time. Well, actually, it wasn't at the time. I've since got the advice that I really lean back on into this mindset, is that as the leader of the company, you should really be trying to focus on only doing what only you can do, right? And
Right.
everything else should be delegated if you're trying to scale a business, right? And there's nothing wrong with being a solopreneur, and with the AI tools and the way technology is going right now, there's going to be one guy somewhere, or one woman, or one somebody that like starts a $1 billion company all by themselves, and I'm sure that's going to happen. But yeah, you have to build a team and rely on your team and realize that you have limitations as a human being. Things are just easier with the right people with aligned interests. So that
Yeah.
kind of happened on both fronts, in that like there was a skills thing where it's like we were trying to have too many skill sets. We used to do like vehicle wraps and marketing and websites and SEO, and like we tried to do everything. And I realized like all that meant to anybody that knew what they were looking for was that we didn't do anything well.
Yeah. No,
So
look, that's such a good point. And because, the jack of all trades, master of none is really, equates to you getting mediocre work.
right.
And so I absolutely believe and agree with the stay in your lane situation. And in fact, I remember years ago, my buddy, he opened up a landscape company, and I was like, "Hey, man, I really could use some help. I have some landscape work needing to be done." And his response to me, and this is a good friend of mine, and his response to me was, "What zip code do you live in?" And I was like, "Well, I live in this zip code," and I gave it to him, and he goes, "Yeah, we don't go out there." And I was like, "Really?" And he says, "Unless it's just a one day or like a big project that we can just complete and be done." He said, "But we're not going to do maintenance." He goes, "Because I factor in gas, I factor in travel, I factor in bridges and tunnels." And he goes, "And by the time you factor all that in," he goes, "your job is just not worth it." And
Yeah.
and I was like, "Man, he's a friend, like, hey, screw you, pal." But then I was like, you know what? I was like, that makes sense, right? And it makes total sense. And so he's the mastered his job because he understood how to stay in his lane and not to push himself. And it's so easy as a business owner that we all the time we want to just go after the dollar. And so you have someone who's dangling this dollar as a, whether it's a solopreneur or you have a team, and it's like, man, I want to go get that. And you really have to figure out if the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak.
Every
And
time.
and and so you don't know. And I do encourage those who are starting businesses, like, you don't, unfortunately, a lot of times when you're starting a business, you don't have that flexibility. Like, you have to go where the client is. But your goal ultimately is to rein that back in. And that's what you were saying. And I really, really like that, Carl. I think that's it's no wiser words spoken, on this podcast, at least. So,
Yeah.
um, so now you have 11 employees, right?
Mhm.
And which is crazy, or, a variation of employees in 1099, however you want to
Yeah, yeah,
figure it
for
out.
sure.
And so, but I'm assuming that everybody works remote. Is that the everybody's?
Yeah, totally. So everybody is remote. We used to have an office in Granby Street in Norfolk. We had several offices actually. We moved around that space for probably at least 5 years. Different offices here and there, maybe a little longer than that. But yeah, once the pandemic hit, we started really targeting bigger clients and not really worried about the local market. And the more that we got success and got projects with Nickelodeon and Sci-Fi and Nick Jr., we had less and less focus
Name
on this.
drops. I heard those name drops, just for
Oh
the
yeah.
record. Yeah.
Well, it's important because those people don't care where the work gets done or how it gets
Yeah.
done or what my office looks like. We had this office forever because like we're a real business. We have an office. Look,
Yeah.
see, come sit down in my office. And it's like, yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter. And then the stigma entirely evaporated once COVID hit and everybody was stuck at home and everyone had to set up remote calls and everyone's comfortable with video now. So like it's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah.
We're never going back to that. Yeah, we still meet up in person, a couple times a year and like just for that camaraderie. I genuinely love these people that work for me that, have helped me build this dream that we have, aligned interest in. And yeah, so, I think I went on a tangent there, but
No, no, no. I love it. And it's funny. I'm going to go on total left field here because it's really funny. For those who are just listening and not watching this, Carl is wearing your traditional golf hat. I don't know what they even call these.
I don't know either. I love these things.
Maybe it's like the what was that? Who was that guy? That detective? Like, it's a detective hat or something. But I'm
Yeah.
I'm super jealous because if you see behind me, I have my hat wall, right? And none of those are on there, and that's because I have too big of a head for those to fit in. Like, I've always tried to find those and just don't make sense. And yeah, so it's I'm quite jealous here of this hat. Okay, back on track here. So okay, so 2006, and let's say to 2010 maybe is when you had locations, and then yeah, COVID hit, 10 years later, and the work remote. But what I'm seeing a little bit on my end is like, there's a sense of wanting to come back together a little bit, and I know corporations are wanting to do that. Is that something? Is this like sayonara? You're just, there's not going to be an office space in the future. You just don't see that.
Yeah, so creatives are a different breed, I think.
Sure.
Especially the people that so the team I have is highly curated, right? As you can imagine. So there are some people that need that in that space and that accountability and that work life separation, so that because they have trouble doing it on their own, right? So they want to go to a place and punch a clock and blah blah blah. But like I built this business for my type of creative, like I built this business for me, right? So I built the things around it and the way we work around what I would want, right? So, like, I work best right here at my desk, sometimes at 2 in the morning, sometimes, at like 5 in the morning, something, whenever that is. Like, it's really relative to each person. So I find that, like, I like to set people in a place where they do their best work. And
Yeah.
it is not my say so on what that is, right? I should have no influence or control over that because I don't care, right? I think there's
Right.
a big thing in corporate America where they want to own people's lives and dominate every little second. It's like, you showed up 3 minutes late for work today, Timmy. If that happens three more times, you're going to have to get a write up. And it's just
Yeah.
like, like, I can't, like, I don't want to employ children. Like, if you're not a self motivated, like entrepreneurial minded, at least in some regard, like, you're probably not going to work great in my organization. And that's okay. So
Yeah.
we kind of have a team of like creative unicorns over here that are, not all over the place. Like, we're as good at business and accountability as we are at art and creativity, which has been in a hard mix. I've hired some people that were crazy talented that I was like, oh my god, I cannot wait to get this person on our team, and they just don't work in this system, and it was really unfortunate. And there's nothing wrong with them; they'll find a great space. I'm sure they're thriving now. Just we weren't the space for that. So.
Right. That makes sense. Makes total sense.
But yeah, I am going to build a cool workshop in the backyard. That's on the short list. Like just
Well,
a epic made office, but in my backyard. I got an acre and a half. You know what I mean?
I
Like, I
mean,
don't want to go anywhere.
I was gonna say you did mention in kind of like your bio was avid backyard homesteader. So what
Mm.
the heck is that? What do you mean by that?
Oh yeah, well, I've been growing like when I started this business, we were dirt poor and I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I wasn't gonna punch a clock for the rest of my life on someone else's time. So we were on food stamps, we were on all like everything you could think of, like all the money that came in went straight back to paying people. I believe like Simon Sinek says that leaders eat last, and sometimes that means I'm starving, right?
Yeah.
But I got to take care of my team if I want to have a business, right? So as such, my wife had a background in biology, ecology, and all that sort of stuff. And I grew up in Pungo. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. We grew some shit back in the day for sure. So, um, but yeah, so my backyard is full of blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, bananas, avocados,
Elderberries.
pecans,
You have elderberry there?
elderberries.
Okay.
We got cranberries, apples, peaches. I'm just trying to walk around the yard in my mind. I
I'm
got,
trying to
you know,
imagine
sun,
this farm.
sunflowers, a greenhouse I built that I dug 3 foot into the ground with a shovel, and it's like 10 foot by 12 foot. But I've got beans. I grow like 30 pounds of blackberries every year. It's like an endless
Wow.
supply of blackberries. But yeah, I'll walk out my yard, make a little like a yard smoothie after I get back from the gym, and I have my own strawberries, my own blueberries, my own blackberries, my own raspberries, bananas, passion fruit, you name it. I just throw it in the blender with a cup of protein and I'm good to go. So, or
That's
scoop of
nuts.
protein. So.
I've been watching Yellowstone a lot lately, and I feel like I'm gonna buy a farm soon anyways. So
You should.
it's gonna be epic. No, I don't know if you know this about me. I grew up on a ranch actually, so we were very self-sustained
Love it.
out in California. So we had chickens to avocado trees that I miss desperately.
Yeah. I have a
They
little one, but I haven't gotten any avocados off it yet. It's in
oh
my
my god,
greenhouse.
ours are massive. They're probably 200 feet tall. Just
Oh
like
yeah.
they, I mean, we had three of them, and they're also really good for forts. Like if you want to
Oh
build
yeah.
forts on them. So we had some, no pun intended, some epic battles there, Nerf battles.
I love it.
Okay, so one of the other things you put on your bio that I want to jump into and help explain to our listeners and viewers is it says here that you're on the national board for the Graphic Artists Guild. When I think of like a guild, I'm thinking of like you get to go to these red carpet events, you get to see things first, and maybe I'm way off, and hopefully I don't make it sound what we wish it was and not. But anyways, so tell us what does that mean?
Yeah, so the Graphic Artists Guild is a national trade association for creatives and artists. It's been around for like 50 plus years. They've helped push legislation and advocacy, around copyright and protecting artists' rights. So the Graphic Artists Guild really focuses around the business side of protecting artists and helping facilitate things. They have sample contracts you can get. They literally write the book on the pricing and ethical guidelines for our craft, right? So if you have no idea what to charge as an artist or a creator of any sort, you can buy this book for $50 or get a membership and you get the book complimentary. And then you can go, all right, well, how much is a 1 minute video of animation in 2D? And it's like, boom, the price ranges from here to here. And these are all like
Yep.
actual data driven surveys and really powerful stuff. But I'm the regional rep for the East Coast. So that covers Virginia to New York.
Wow.
And I'm basically just kind of here to help facilitate relationships and spread word about the guild. I'm also on the advocacy committee, and as you can imagine, there's a bit of an existential crisis right now with copyright laws and artist infringement and all the crazy stuff going on with AI and generative artwork and generative writing. So we're a part of all that, trying to make sure like we're not pro or for anything in terms of tools. Like we do believe AI is a tool, but we do believe that there's some guide rails and some ethical ways that we need to go about this, and some ways that we need to protect our creators who have in fact created the things that are being pumped into these machines, in a lot of cases without their consent.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot going on in there, but the organization is amazing, and I've been a part of it now for about a year. And I'm also a part of AIGA, which is another trade organization for creatives that really focuses more on the craft and the localized communities. I was the Hampton Roads chapter president for a long time. I have since stepped down this year, and Bria is now the chapter president. But a lot of local creative leaders have been in there, Drew and Varsky, and a few other people as well. So it's got a lot of
That's
clout. It's good,
yeah,
good
no,
space as
that's
well.
awesome. And it's I think it's super impressive what you're doing and how you're helping. And we're seeing a lot, like not necessarily on the artist side, but we're seeing a lot of well, I would say that they're artists in their own right, but with writers and now actors are taking these big strikes and
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I always say that's really good time for animation. Like, that's it's
yeah,
like when animation was so big during COVID too, because they couldn't come. People couldn't come together, so they had to be able to do stuff
for sure.
remotely. Okay, so talk to us. Because in you dropped some really big names, which is awesome. But we also don't want to be intimidating to brands that aren't Nickelodeon, for example. And so we don't want people thinking that you're not reachable and obtainable. So tell
Sure.
us about like some like what's a typical client look like for you now?
Well, typical clients come to us with some sort of problem they need solved in a creative fashion, right? So we always start off just kind of like, hey, what's going on with your business? Where are you at? Like, where do you hope to be? What are some of your goals? And like, then we start kind of chewing the ideas in our head. Like, we are true form creatives and storytellers, right? So there's a way to put your message out in some sort of fashion that will help spread awareness, right? And we typically work with organizations that have some sort of marketing team or someone head of marketing that really knows their market, so that we're not making any missteps for lack of education in a specific niche market, right? So
Right.
the things that we know internally, like we work direct with clients, in entertainment, especially people trying to target like Gen Y or Gen Z, anything in the fantasy space, gaming, that kind of stuff. That's our like sweet spot where we know those markets, so we're comfortable without having the industry expert. But if we go work into another space, we really want to make sure that someone on their team has the industry insights, so that we can apply our creativity to those sort of guidelines and boundaries, or at least know where to break the rules and where not to potentially, right? Because
Right.
worst thing that happens is you deliver a piece of creative that is ignorant to the culture in which it's trying to reach, and there's a lot of subtlety there. So
Yeah.
it's very important. But size wise, generally companies that are generating at least $1 million in gross revenue and can spend anywhere from like five to $50,000 on a creative asset. Five on the low end, and it just depends, man. But we didn't start there, obviously. Like, we
Sure.
built ourselves up over the years. We used to take anything for We used to do logos for $200, and and that's great when you are a solopreneur and you don't
Sure.
have um, the expenditures and the direction that we're trying to go. Like, we want to tell stories on the biggest platforms, and we want to be able to like tap into the depths of the creative knowledge and resources that my team has, and we just can't do that for budgets that just don't make sense.
Well,
um
also
so
2006, Fiverr didn't exist either, so it's like
Right. The
like
bottom of these markets is difficult to compete in. It's
sure.
basically like try to survive till you go out of business type of things, because you
Yep.
can't build in the profit margins and this global economy. What you said with like people like Fiverr that like genuinely can get a meal, or like, I was in Jamaica in like, 2012, and the guy's like, yeah, rent for my stand on the beach is $20 a month. And it's like, okay, I get it. Like, it's a
Right.
whole different economy. So
Yeah. Well, it is fascinating, like, as things are changing I remember, yeah, back in like 2000, early 2000s actually, and I remember like spending $350 to $500 for a logo. And even then it was, not it was hard to like really tap into exactly what you wanted.
right.
And but now there are definitely tools out there that are available. And for those who may not be able to afford your services right now, there are some great resources out there, and I'm sure that they could reach out to you. But there are some great resources to help them get to that $1 million in revenue, type stand. And I'm sure, and Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would guess that if you don't have to have $1 million in revenue if you have the capital to be able to, pay for your services. So,
Of
so we don't want
course.
to make that a requirement
Yeah.
by any means, but
It's
that's
sort of just like a benchmark guideline where we
right.
see like a lot of our clients fall into at least that space. But and look, I love helping entrepreneurs. Like, I've been on this grind my whole life. I've been
Sure.
crying at Christmas trying to figure out how to pay my employees. I've been crying in bed because I can't believe we just got a contract and I'm so excited. Like, it's beautiful. It just overcomes me. So like, I'm always happy to help budding entrepreneurs. So like, don't not reach out to me because you've done like, I don't care if we can work together or not. Like, I set aside a good chunk of time every week just to help creatives and help other entrepreneurs, and just pay forward any advice that was given to me. So many people were so generous with their time and
Yeah.
wisdom that like, it is an obligation in my heart to help pay that forward. So
Yeah. I love that. Paying it forward is so important. And man, look, I'm looking at the time here, and Carl, it seems like you and I can talk forever.
I believe so.
And you're super easy to talk to, and then I've always appreciated your advice and being able to, give up that time. I can attest to it. The multiple times you and I have chatted, and you've always been really good, and hopefully we'll be able to get you plugged in over there at our homies over there at 7x7 Startup Studio,
Yeah.
and start getting you plugged in over there. So, but man, look, unfortunately, this show is going to come to a close here. But is there anything you would like to put out there? Anything specific? Not to put you on the spot, but like, specific clients or specific work that you really want to tap into that our listeners, and maybe it's not even our listeners, but they may know someone who is in that space, needing someone like you.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the bucket list things we really want to do a really fun animated music video. Uh, I think to do it right, it's got to be like 100K budget, but I just feel like it would be super fun, something on the level of like some of the gorilla stuff you see, and
Oh my
just,
gosh. I was
oh
just
my,
listening to them the other
yeah,
day, man. I was like,
we've
I'm trying
just
to introduce them to my kids a little bit right now.
Yeah, we've just wanted to do that. And then yeah, I'm always looking for speaking gigs right now just because I like to get in front of people. So if you have a podcast that you think I could add some value to, or you have any sort of convention or in-person gathering, I've done several speaking engagements on Web3 and NFTs. I talk a bit about AI and copyright and stuff like that. And you can check out all the stuff I have. I have my own podcast called Pixel Retentive. And I have, my personal studio where I do NFTs and I immortalize the old man and put all his stuff on the blockchain with stories. And
Like
then obviously Epic Made. You can find all of that at colorfulcarl.com.
I
So
I'm sitting here like playing in my head, where I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad or sad. I got
got
sunshine.
sunshine in a
what a,
bag.
what a classic. So classic of us sharing our age. All right.
Yep.
Well, look, man, the one of the most important parts of our show is the time we put you on the spot. So, and I've got to stop saying everything's the most important part. I'll just say another cool part to our show is that we
The
put you
whole
on.
thing is a
The whole
fun
thing
journey.
is epically made for
Yeah,
you.
I love it.
All right, now look, if If these are anything outside of PG-13, I toss them and I'll pick another card. So, all right,
Okay.
Here we go. Which would you rather? Oh, man. Okay, go to jail for 10 years for a crime you didn't commit, or use sandpaper as toilet paper for the rest of your life.
Sandpaper is toilet paper.
Oh, my gosh.
I
man.
value my freedom. The
All right.
freedom.
All
I'd
right,
rather be in pain
freedom!
than not be free.
Oh, man, I love it. Okay. All right, the next one. Hold on. Let me think on that. I think I'd have to go sandpaper too. Yeah,
it's
I
a
value
no-brainer
my
for me.
freedom too.
Like,
I'll just have to walk like I'm a cowboy or something. I think that's it.
you look
Okay.
tough then, right?
Live in the desert without air conditioning, or have each new day be slightly more boring than the last.
Oh, live in the desert without air conditioning. I'm
Yeah.
deathly afraid of being bored. Like
Okay.
I don't have any patience for boredom
Right.
at all. And I go camping for fun in 100-degree heat, and I go for a run. I've done 7-mile runs at 100 degrees just to see if I wouldn't die, and that was just part of me trying
Oh,
to not lose my mind in COVID. So
you hear that, folks? You go for a run to point out that you're not going to die. So that's
my dad used to always say, you can tell how emotionally disturbed someone is by the distances they need to run to feel normal.
I love that. I love the I see those memes for are you okay? Are you all right? And they're like, as they're running, they're like, wait, you do this for fun? I thought you were running from something. I actually love running, so it's funny. All right, man. Well, look, this has been a great show. Colorful Carl, man, you've been great. Thank you so much. So much information. If you want to get to know him, please be sure to check us out on social media, and we will for sure post all of your links and make sure everybody knows how to find you. Thank you to our LinkedIn posts. Those were great. And also thank you to Magazine Jukebox for being our sponsor. You guys rock. So anyways, this has been a great show. Carl, thanks so much, man. We're out of here, though.
Thanks, brother.
All right, man. All right.
Bye.
See ya.